Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within. Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Over to you, John Kenny. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Namsa. Hello. So relationships, can be very complicated, but they also can be very easy. There are lots of things that will affect a relationship, and how you see them is the main factor. The meaning that you give to them, the meaning you give to your past, the meaning that you give to all of your experiences and how they reflect on your beliefs around relationships. So if you've experienced difficulties in your relationships in the past, you will build up an idea of what relationships mean to you. They may feel very difficult. You may have experienced a lot of trauma in your childhood, or maybe just perceive things that were hurtful and difficult for you to come to terms with. When this happens, we have a tendency to carry those things throughout our lives, and then they become entrenched in our subconscious, and they're driven by our belief systems. We need to make our beliefs true, and so therefore we repeat the same kind of issues over and over again until we get to a point in life where generally we've reached a stage where we won't allow ourselves to go through these things anymore. So we make a decision. We make a decision to change. We make a decision to understand ourselves, and we make a decision to actually get the relationships that we want in our lives. And that's why I am the relationship guy, and I'm a coach to professional women over the age of 40 who want to create a healthy, intimate relationship.
I love that. The relationship guy. I've always loved it. Hello, everyone watching and whoever's going to be watching in the future. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Now, this life, right, and what it all means, you may call it raison d'être, ikigai, or purpose, or purposes, as a matter of fact. An average 90% of people live their lives not questioning their existence. They live with a feeling of being lost sometimes, not knowing where to go next, and the feeling of having no sense of purpose envelops them. Do you perhaps feel like living as a hamster, being stuck in a hamster wheel, running around, always grinding, no sense of direction with a lack of fulfillment and belonging into your life? Do you feel stuck in that place where everything is repetitive and no way out? My name is Kamal. I'm a certified NLP trainer, master practitioner, hypnotherapist, and a specialist in life purpose. With a combination of ancient Egyptian wisdom and neuro-linguistic programming, I help you create a foundation to a life of harmony, balance, and purpose.
Thank you so much, Kamal. I think it's actually Kamal's connection. Were you muted, John, when Kamal was speaking?
I was indeed, yes.
Okay, I think it is Kamal's connection.
You're breaking up a bit, Kamal. It's a bit
Let's hope it fixes up very quickly. My connection is quite okay, but we'll see what happens.
All right.
Okay. So our topic today is when love and when it's misleading you. So sometimes feelings can actually mislead us in relationships, or our spouse can mislead us, go along with whatever we think they desire with us, but they want different things. But how do we know we are being misled by our feelings? How do we know we are being misled by our spouse? Sometimes people enter relationships for many, many years and they know that they're not into it. Sometimes they stay because of finances. Sometimes they stay because they are scared to be alone. But then the other person, both spouse, they end up suffering emotionally, the bleeding, because they're not basically together emotionally and in that relationship. So I'm going to start with John. Could you please explain to our audience, because you are the relationship guy?
Thanks, Tom. So, yeah, as I said in the introduction, there are a lot of things that we carry from our past as far as relationships are concerned. We get used to certain types of relationships, and that can be quite misleading for us when we start to have more intimate relationships and longer term relationships when we're older. Misleading is a very broad term. So as you said, it could be that we're misleading ourselves, we're being misled by others. But what can happen is we have a tendency to choose what's familiar for us. So therefore, when you meet somebody, you might get that instant attraction. You might think it's the right type of person for you, but depending on where you see yourself and where you see relationships, that could be actually quite misleading, because that might be drawing you into a subconscious pattern. So you might meet say you meet two people, one of them you don't kind of get any feelings for at all, but they could be the perfect person for you. But your brain is telling you that the other person there is familiar to you. So therefore, you go with the person that's familiar rather than the person that's perfect. Because your brain is saying, I need to go with what I know. If this person doesn't trigger any familiarity for you, your brain won't recognize it as something that it needs to go towards. And it will just either ignore it, or because it would be good for you, your brain actually might tell you to avoid it altogether. So we can mislead ourselves when it comes to choosing the right type of person. Also, we can be misled by love, because when we first meet somebody, we have a chemical reaction in our brain, which is the in love type feeling when we're with someone for a little while, because our brain is telling us that we need to be with this person, mostly because we need to have children and be with them enough time for those children to basically not to be looked after anymore. So when we meet somebody and we start to embark on a relationship, we have this chemical dump into our brains. Our brains tells us that we need to connect to this person, and these hormones help us to do that. So we get the excited feelings, we get the oxytocin, which is called the love hormone, which enables us to feel connected with somebody. And there's a few other bits and pieces that go on within our brain. And we feel attracted to this person because our brain is saying, this will be a good person for you to have children with. And it releases those hormones until the children are old enough to look after themselves, unless you generally have some more kids. That can last anywhere between 18 months and 7 years. And this is why we get the 7-year itch in relationships, because generally by that time, there are no hormones left. And if you haven't developed a sense of real love for somebody, then there's nothing really keeping you together. So something we need to really be aware of when we meet somebody, that our brain could be misleading us again. They may fit certain criteria that our brain, again, we're familiar with. So then we get this hormonal dump. Our brain attaches to this person because we then want to have children with them. And then after a while, that all wears off. And where we're left is depending on whether you've made a healthy choice for yourself or not. I think I've spoken enough about that. I'm going to let Kamal to sort of take over with that, and maybe he can talk a bit more about when your partners might mislead you. because that's another. Otherwise, I'll be talking like forever.
I mean, you are the relationship guy, so if I'm taking advice or I'm listening, I would rather listen to you, right? But you're very correct. I mean, I agree with what you're saying there, and that misleading part. I'm sure you're going to be speaking about it later on. It falls under the category of how we also see values. Now, when how a partner misleads us, or person of interest can mislead us, is also stems from this perspective of values, right? But John has spoken about the chemical reaction and that need, right? You still have a need out of trauma sometimes as well, that is caused and causes you to fall into these similar relationships, right? This pattern that is very familiar to you. And you're still not putting yourself into check. Now, you have a partner in your life, forget you have that chemical reaction, all is good, all is lovely. But how would they mislead you? Well, if you let go of the boundaries that you have for yourself, if you don't put any boundaries for yourself and your family members, if you are just flowing along, right, just accepting situations as they are, well, you are going to be misled because you're not taking a stance, you're not putting your foot down, you're not deciding for yourself, you're not choosing what you want. A similar situation happens to a lot of people when they feel that they have no choice in relationships and say, no, I'm stuck like that. Well, that's not true. You still have a choice to leave. Yeah, but I don't have money. Okay, but there's still a choice. Yeah, but what about the kids? Yeah, you can leave. It's still a choice. See, at any point in our life, we have choices. And if you don't make the choices in your life, somebody else will make them for you. And that's what I believe can happen, or I believe happens in a lot of relationships. And people are misled by their partners due to that factor. And I mean, that misleading of the partners, it's, in a sense, from my perspective, it's not really their fault. It's your fault for letting them. If you, like I said, if you do not make a choice, somebody else will make it for you. So at the end, it's your behavior that is causing this misleading. If somebody gets angry, if you get angry because somebody did something, that's your problem. It's not theirs. You're the one that is triggered. You're the one that has behavioral problems. And the same thing happens with being misled into a relationship or believing that you're in love. You are the one causing that to yourself. You're not assessing the situation. You're not understanding which ideologies do you have. I'm not talking religious, I'm talking about everything in general. What philosophies do you have about life? What philosophies do you have about raising children or not? What philosophies do you have about parenthood? What philosophies do you have about money, about values, about integrity, about respect, about trust, about love? All of these points create that misleading perspective. And if you, in your mind, say, oh, the perfect person for me would have 10 of these qualities, and you decide that, you know what, I'm going to go with 5, but you're the one that put your values down, you're the one that decided that 5 only will suffice to be that perfect partner that you want in your life. And you will be misled because you have made a choice against yourself. So, I mean, it comes back again to how a partner can mislead you. I don't believe that it is possible by lies, it is possible by manipulation, it is possible by these terms of influence. But at the end, it's the person's choice to not put boundaries and decide what is good for themselves. And that's what I think about being misled by a partner, though. It comes very back to the root of what you were talking about, John. It's whatever happened, you're familiar with it and you want it to continue, and you don't have the guts, you don't have the will, in essence, to choose something.
Or the awareness, even.
Exactly, the awareness as well. Of course, if it's a trauma, then you don't have the awareness. Absolutely right. So yeah, I think that's where I stand when it comes to that.
You guys, basically, with Johnny, you talk about the familiarity and subconscious, that we sometimes we have a choice to choose, and then the chemicals reaction to love. I've met people, like sometimes I send my clients on a date, and they'll come back and say, on the first date, they'll come back and say, I don't like that person. And I'm like, tell me the least that you don't like about the person. The minute I say, tell me the least, they can't get the words out of their mouth. Sometimes they judge the person by their looks. Sometimes they judge the person by the car they are driving. Sometimes a woman sees a man driving a car in the car park, that I don't like the car you're driving. So, and then so when you sit down with someone, you sit down, you're talking to them, you're like, I need to understand it, because I send you on a date, so I need to, because on the first date, when a woman and a man they meet, everyone is basically wrecked with nerves. And at that moment they are speaking, and sometimes somebody can mislead somebody just because of what you've written, what you want, and anything can happen that moment. But the only thing I always tell my clients is, if you feel that there is a chance that you can actually date that person, why don't you give them a second chance, second date? But if you're still feeling the same way on a second date, that means it ain't gonna happen, because on the first time you are wrecked, you are with nerves, and then a second time. But then it comes to a long-term relationship. Kamal talks about the boundaries. You talk about basically, I think boundaries, basically when you enter a relationship, is very, very important to understand, to have your boundaries in place. I always say, okay, I believe in God. God has his commandment that if you want to enter my kingdom, these are my commandments. So then I still agree that I am going to follow you. But then as a woman, we don't have rules. A relationship that has rules, it ain't going to work, because you have rules. So boundaries and principles, if you know your principles, if you say, I'm going to create my principles in this relationship, and say, this is what I can tolerate, this is what I can't, this is what my vision is. Basically, you sit down, this is my vision. You don't have to lie and say, oh, she wants kids. I'm not sure whether I want to get married, whether I want kids, but I'm going to go along with her. She's got nice boobs, she looks beautiful, because the looks can mislead as well. And men with six packs, it can mislead as well. There are so many things that can blind people going on dates, or blind people entering a relationship. You enter a relationship just because somebody's good looking. Next month or in 2 years' time, they put on weight. You are like, I'm not sure, but this is what I want. Because you didn't actually enter that relationship because of the vision that you have in your mind, and both vision. You have to have a vision, both of you, and that vision has to complement you, like what Kamal was saying, like Johnny was saying. Basically, there is so much that goes into relationship that people can ever imagine. But if you enter just because, oh, Nomsa, she's good looking, I'm just gonna go and date her, I put on weight in 2 months' time, then you don't see me as a good looking anymore. So over to you, John. I know you are dying to comment.
Yeah, so that could be because that's where your values lie, though, isn't it? I mean, if you are an insecure person, you might want to date someone that's attractive, and that could be the only thing that you see. You could value yourself based on how attractive the person is that you date. So you could then only have that. That could be the only thing on your list. You know, I need to date someone who's this good looking, who looks like this, has the six pack, has the nice boobs, because if I have that person, then that values me. I value myself. So we have to be, really, again, it comes to that self-awareness. It's like Kamal was saying, it's about accepting responsibility for yourself, but having the having the ability to be able to say, okay, what is it that I really want in somebody that's going to be fulfilling for me long term? And looks can be one of those things, because we are all, we all find someone, we all want to be with someone that we find attractive. So, if we don't find someone attractive, that's generally the first thing that we'll look at. We'll pick up on someone's energy, but the first thing we'll see with somebody is actually their physical appearance. So we don't know anything about them apart from really what they look like. So we will be attracted to them physically, and we want to be attracted to someone physically. But there are so many different things that we would want in a relationship. It depends on, again, where we're coming from. So, for instance, I might grow up in a relationship when I'm a kid and I get 20% of my needs met. Then I meet somebody and they offer me 30% of my needs. Now, to me, that's a massive improvement to anything I've ever had. But there's still 70% missing of what I could have. But I don't know that. I'm not aware of that because I just get carried away with this extra 10%. That's a massive improvement of anything I've ever had. So I might think that this person is ideal for me because I'm getting so much more than I've always already been used to. But I'm not aware of the fact that there's still so much more missing. And therefore, when we go into a relationship, to be ready for a relationship, we need to know what our values are. We need to know what we want from a relationship. And we need to know, and I'm going to just throw the word tolerate out there, as you said earlier on. And I don't like to use the word should. Never be in a relationship where you tolerate someone. Never be in a tolerate. Because if you're tolerating them, there is something fundamental going against what you want. If it's something small, like perhaps they leave the toilet seat up, that's your issue, not theirs, to be honest. So again, it's about taking that responsibility for your own stuff. You're going to meet people that are going to trigger you all the time, depending on where you come from. And it's up to you to understand what those triggers are, so that you're aware of whether this is a good relationship for you or not. I also agree with what Kamal said earlier on about choice. If you choose to be with somebody and you're not making a decision for yourself not to be with them when you do realize that they might be misleading you in some way, then the onus is completely on you at that point. You may not know it at the start. So there are plenty of people out there that have a routine. They have a way of being when they meet people. So they're very good at drawing you in, because they have learned how to do that. It's about putting something forward that they want to be seen. And if that triggers within us something that we like to see, then obviously we're going to go with that. And that's one of the issues that a lot of people have, is that, if you're with somebody for 6 or 7 months and all they've shown you is this great stuff, and then all of a sudden they can't keep up the facade any longer, and they start to show you who they really are, they may have sucked you in enough for you then to find it quite difficult for you to withdraw from that. Not just because your hormones are triggered. So again, remember that when you meet someone, if you start to fall for someone, all of these hormones are released into your system, and it's quite hard for you then to walk away, because your brain is saying, no, we need to stay with this person. Look at all the hormones I've given you. You're going to have babies with this person, and we need to make sure this relationship works. And so we can be very much in conflict with ourselves. And also if they feed an idea, again, about relational belief. So if I come from relationships where I was used to being treated in a certain way as a child, and then all of a sudden this person who's been really nice to me starts to treat me in a certain way, which is, again, familiar to me, is then really difficult for me to walk away from that. If they've love bombed me and given me everything I've wanted for 6 months, then I could be in some kind of state with them, which, I want that 6 months back. So I could let this relationship go on for maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And sometimes I've actually spoken to clients that have been in relationships for like 15 years, and they're really trying to recreate the first year of that relationship. It was so good at this point, and I want that back. And they keep trying, and they keep trying to get this relationship back again. But actually, they're just, misleading themselves that that's ever going to happen. So we need to be really aware of where we stand within this relationship, as as we've already said a few times, what do you want from somebody? To be aware of the things that may trigger your insecurities, may trigger your needs from the past, and just again to be very alert to that kind of thing. I think Kamal said about 90% of the population have a tendency just to go through life doing life. They're very unaware of the things that they go through, because they haven't taken the time to really look at themselves and go, actually, what is it that who am I? What is it that I want in my life, and how am I going to make that happen? We just go through life doing the things that we learned as we were growing up, and we don't take the time out to take a step back and go, actually, is this what I really want? And that's why I work with the age group that I work with, because generally by the time people, it can happen sooner. I mean, I've worked with people much younger, but generally by the time we've reached the age of 40 or so, we recognize there's a pattern. And we also get to a point there where we're really fed up with that pattern going round and round in circles. And we stop that kind of, hang on a minute, I can't do anything about this. I want to do something about this now. I'm not going to allow myself. Generally, the line that I hear is, I can't do this anymore, because we recognize that we've got to a point where we can't do this anymore. And then I help people to say, okay, well, let's say that we don't want to do this anymore, and we're going to make a choice not to do that. And then we empower ourselves then to not mislead ourselves to carry on with these types of relationships.
I think that part is very important, which is that crucial decision in life where, like, no, I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, so what is it that you actually want in your life? Because now you know that you're at that stage where that's not working, right? I used to be in a relationship that was absolutely toxic, and I was walking on eggshells in my own home. And at some point, something got triggered. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. And then I realized, it took me a while to realize, okay, I can't do this anymore. Okay, so we need to stop that. And after we stop that, I need to have a look at what I really want, right? And I think that's, you can actually confirm that. That's one of the biggest problems that people have when they end relationships. They try to jump straight away into a new relationship to compensate for that lack, to compensate for that, whether it's the lack of affection, the lack of similarity, the being in a couple, the lack of fulfillment, in the sense that they say, no, this person is going to be great for me because they're nothing like the past one. However, they're not realizing that, well, wait, you're just doing the same pattern again. You're falling into the same pattern without even understanding yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's the part where, that's that part in life where we decide what we want in it, what we really want in our life, and how we want to live it. And if that stage doesn't click, well, you're stuck where you are, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
So really, it makes sense, right?
And there are people that just actually don't even take the time to finish the relationship. They need the next person to get them out of the relationship that they're already in, because they won't allow themselves to be in a space by themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's misleading that other person as well, from my opinion, because you're taking your hurt, you're taking your pain, your trauma, and you are transferring it to that person, letting that person take charge of your life again, and you not handling anything. It's an unfortunate mistake of a lot of people. However, it's their choice again. Now, getting to a stage where now this is a word I don't really like to use, but it's important to want the need to fix yourself, right? People at some point realize it. Some of them, not everybody, that there is that need of understanding what's going on with you. Like you were saying in the beginning, right? Understanding that crucial point of, okay, now I have to grow out of this. Now I have to analyze my pain, my suffering, my trauma. What is that pattern that I'm going through? Understanding that, well, you know what, it's 35, 40 years and it's still the same rubbish. Like, can't we change a little bit to have a different kind of rubbish? But And it's important to realize that second part that you were talking about, relationships, in my opinion at least, yes, there's that chemical reaction, there's that first attraction, physical, intellectual, maybe a combination, and there's usually something else that is either there or not. And if you force it, I mean, there's that famous saying, right? If love is force is like a fart, I think it's shit, something like that. And I think this is a big issue that a lot of people push themselves into, is that this is a good relationship, this is going to be healthy for me, this is going to be good, and they don't really understand that third part, which is aligning values with each other. What do you want in your future? Now, once that love, chemical attraction falls off the grid, what do you have after that to sustain it, to sustain the relationship? Well, you've got the mind. You've got the connection of things that you like, things that you don't like, similarities and opposites, things that you can do together, things that you can't do together, that you don't want to do together. But that tolerance that you was talking about is right there, is that love, after becoming that spark of love, now that relationship grows into being a relationship of trust, of compassion, of understanding, of growth with each other. And that to me is the right way to grow into a relationship, right? If love fades, there is still something else that grows with you. I'll just give you a small thing here, is that in Arabic, there are 13 words to express the different levels of love. 13. And I think in Greek, there was 4 or 5, if I remember well. But in Arabic, there are 13 of them. And I think that, if I remember well, the highest level of love is a friendship. And we're talking about love between two partners, basically. It reaches a stage of that friendship where you could fight and still cuddle. You can yell at each other, but still want to make sure that the other person is not hurt, that the other person is okay. You have compassion and understanding for each other. You have that. It becomes seamless, basically. That's the translation of the word itself. Again, it's my opinion, right?
And Noms are still on mute, so I'll say it's a good opinion as well. Kamal.
Thank you. I think my opinion is good.
I agree with your opinion. That there are, like you said, the English language is very stunted when it comes to love, isn't it? There was something, I saw it on TV, and I think there was even another language that had even more words for love, because it's all layered. It's a different type of love. Depending on who you're expressing it to and how you're feeling at the time. And so the love I have for my cat is a completely different love I have for my parents. The love I have for my parents is a completely different love that I'll have for friends. And, but we all say, I love you. And it's all just the one word that we use to just describe all of it. I've even said, because of the chemicals in my brain at a certain stage, I've actually said I love people that I don't love. And I'm like, why have I said I love you? I know I don't love you. Why have I said that? It's just weird, because you're in that moment and you get carried away by this emotion, and then your brain tells you to do something or say something, and then like a minute later, I'm like, I don't love you. Why did I say that? So we have to be like really aware of what it is I'm actually feeling. I feel affection towards you. I actually find you quite attractive. I might be in lust with you, maybe. But love is not the right word.
I think that is, I think for you to fall in love with someone it takes a long time to actually admit it, that actually I am in love with this person. There's a difference between love and lust. I agree with you, John. And for me, actually, when my relationship didn't work out, I got tired of basically misleading my life and misleading my heart. And I was like, okay, I'm at this moment, I'm gonna work on myself because I need to put me first. And when I meet somebody, I don't want that person to go through to what I've been going through with people. So I came to a point where I had to work on me. Oh, I have to work on me. Thanks, Kamal. I have to work on me. And when I work on myself, when I worked on myself, then I had to be like, okay, God, the choices that I am making on my own, finding men, they're not really good. So I'm not gonna say I need a man who is this, who is this, who is this. This is who I am. This is who I've worked. I've worked very hard for myself. So can you give me this man that is going to complement who I am? A man that is going to complement my character, that is going to complement my love life, that is going to complement my values. So I had to surrender, and I can tell you this. My man is not the man that I'll go for. It's like when I look for a man, I'm like, you have six-pack, you are a player. So it's like the guy that God gave me, it was the guy that I would dream of dating, because before I'll be like, when I see a good-looking guy or I see this man, he's a player, I judge them. I basically completely judge them. I'll judge them, but because I surrendered everything, I was like, the choices that I've been making, I've not been successful. So I had to work on myself. I had to write down everything, the things that I desire, the things that, and everything it had to match me, my character. It had to match my image. It had to match. If I say I need somebody who's going to give me unconditional love, do I behave that way myself towards people? So I had to basically unleash that giant inside of me to say love everybody unconditional, so I can experience that love from somebody else. And when I met my spouse, he complimented everything that I wanted. Even anything can happen now, I will never regret my relationship with him, because I had that moment. Basically, when I listen to him, I'm like, why is he behaving like me? But we are two different people. He likes this, I like this. There's some things that we meet together, but our values are the same. Basically, we have values, family values. We like this, but we like other different things as well. But I think sometimes you have to, what do people say? I'm a matchmaker, I match people. But at the same time, when I match people, I tell them that if I find a man for you or I find a woman for you, don't judge me just because I'm a matchmaker. So I need your input in this, because you are going to stay with this person all your life, not me. So if I choose this person and you go on a date and you feel that this is not right, this person is not right, because what happens is I can meet John right now, and he can give me the behavior. I think John is amazing. But then when somebody else meets him, or a lover now he meets his lover, he's just going to behave completely different. So that's why I always tell my clients that what you see when you go on dates, don't believe that is going to change. You have to evaluate everything. How the man open doors. How does the man open doors for you? Is a well-cultured man. When he goes for meal, how does he communicate with the staff? Because that's how he's going to communicate with you. A woman, the way they communicate with the staff when you're eating that meal, that is the way they are going to communicate with you. If they are rude, don't even think that is because of what the staff have done. That's who they are. So you have to evaluate everything, not in a place of being judgmental. So that's why I always tell people, or sometimes if somebody rushes a relationship and say, I meet men on LinkedIn and sometimes they're like, oh, Nomsa, you know, I love you very much. I wish I can marry you. I'm like, how can you love a picture that you've never met? So I'm like, remember, this is what I do for a living. You're loving the picture. You've never met Nomsa, remember? So when, in order for you to fall in love with Nomsa, you have to have met Nomsa face to face. But right now, you are falling in love with my picture. And they're like, Nomsa, you're bonkers. I'm like, that is the truth, though.
Basically, they're just saying, Nomsa, I really fancy you, right?
Yes. So then sometimes I have to correct men. I have to say, like, listen, a man is allowed to have a friend with a woman without a man being fencing. So I'm like, if you're a man who goes around and fencing every woman. So sometimes you have to allow yourself to have a relationship with someone without saying, I fancy them, I fancy you. And there are some men, actually, I've disciplined them on LinkedIn. I've not like disconnected them on my profile, and I'm going to teach this one a lesson. So I teach them, this is how you behave towards a woman. Not every woman you meet, they are attracted to you. And so I ask the questions, why do you think you are attracted to me? And that's when you start realizing that this person has been hurt just because you're being nice and kind and you are actually welcoming them in your life. If they've never experienced that and their chemicals is making them believe that they are in love with you.
This is like with movies and stuff, isn't it? I remember in many years ago, there was a film called Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt in it. And it's one of my favourite films. But the lady in there, Claire Forlani, I absolutely fell head over heels in fantasy love with her because of the character that she played. I mean, she was such a kind of person that I'd actually want to have a relationship with. And she had so many attributes of that person that I thought I'd really. But it was that kindness and that gentleness and that loving side of something that I'd never experienced before, that made me really kind of fall for that character. And that's what we do, isn't we? We look for those subconscious things that trigger what we think we might be attracted to, as well as whether they look. I mean, she's a very attractive lady, so that obviously had a lot to do with it at the same time. But it was the personality that she played in that role that was the thing that I found so attractive. And we don't get to see that, like you said, Nos. We don't see that whole personality until we've seen people in many different environments, how they are with their family, how they are with their friends, how they are in public, in, like you said, in restaurants and stuff, how they're going to treat people. And we don't really know someone's character and what they're really like until we've seen them. Because like you said, when we date someone, especially in the early days, generally people will put best foot forward and they'll show you the parts of which they think you're going to like, or maybe the only parts of themselves that they like as well. So they're going to try and put a part across of themselves that they think is going to be acceptable. And again, so then we can be quite misled by that, because all we're seeing is the parts that they want to show us. And I think I mentioned earlier on, like, 6 months or so down the line, they might drop that facade. But actually, like you mentioned there, they might not be aware of the fact that they drop that facade with other people in front of you. So it would be something to be very aware of is, how do they treat people that aren't you? Because there's a familiarity in their friendships, there's a familiarity in their relationships with their family that they've already established. So how they are with them is generally probably how they're going to be as a person, because they already feel comfortable in their company. And like you said, how they might treat people outside. Do they have respect for people? Do they treat them as an equal? What do your values stand for? You might not want someone who treats people as an equal, but then then you probably need to get some therapy. Because you're going to be very judgmental, and there's lots of things that you're going to be carrying if you can't see people as equals. If you want someone who's going to lord over others, if you want someone that's going to boss people about, again, that says a lot about where you come from and the things that you've experienced in your life that you might find attractive in somebody, but generally won't be healthy for you moving on long term. So yeah, definitely that idea about being misled by somebody at the start. It's interesting what you said about someone with a six-pack being untrustworthy and a bit of a player as well. That's your judgment immediately was put onto that person. Whereas what they could actually be saying is, I only feel attractive physically. So if I work out and I make myself look the way I think a woman, or if it's a woman like wants to be slim or whatever, if I'm going to be this person that I think someone else is going to find attractive, then that's what I'm going to look like, because they don't have a sense of self that's important enough for them to say, actually, this is who I am, this is who I am comfortable with, this is who I want to be. And when we do that, when we go out into the world, we meet people that are attracted to who we really are. So it's really important that when we get ready for relationships, that we are in a space where we're very comfortable to go out and just be ourselves. And then the person that we meet, if they like us, they're going to be attracted to the person that we are rather than the person that we're portraying ourselves to be.
I think at the time that was me following the crowd of judging people, but now I've realized, actually, just looking at my spouse, that actually this is a normal person. It depends, because when I met him and his family were like, what did you do to him? I was like, what do you mean, what did I do to him? They were like, he doesn't commit. I was like, I didn't do anything to him. And then I was like, your family says you don't commit. So that's when he explained to his family that sometimes, when you meet someone and they are not right for you, there is no point in hanging around. So he explained to his family that you guys thought I don't commit, but I was going through in relationships. I was picking people, women, because of how nice they are, because of how they look. And he explained what he was doing, because me, I put him on the interview. I gave him an interview without him knowing, and I can see the poor guy was sweating. He wasn't telling me what I wanted to hear. When I saw him sweating, it was like, can I have a beer, please? Can I have a beer? And I was like, it's working. So I can see the answers. So I can see that basically I was asking questions, like sometimes you ask questions, not interviewing someone without them knowing and being playful. And I realized that he wasn't lying to me, like telling me what I want to hear. Because if somebody tells you what you want to hear, you will know straight away. And I was like, I put him on the spot with my life and with my daughter, because I've got a child. So I put him on the spot. That was 7 years ago. He went on the spot. He passed that, but he didn't pass it by talking to me. I actually had to make him babysit my daughter. Honestly, I had to babysit my daughter, and yeah, and I take, and I come back, and my daughter goes, he's the best babysitter ever. You are not good, mommy. I was like, wow, okay, that's fine. So he had to pass it, but at the time when I was doing it, I didn't make him feel that he was testing. I was like, I'm going shopping, I'm going this, you and my daughter, and hope you're gonna have fun. And that was the process. And seeing that he's actually doing things natural, so it was fine. He had to pass the test. Over to you, Kamal.
I love you had to pass the test.
Yes, of course.
It's true, because we do create these tests for our partners, whether we believe it or not, whether we think we're doing them consciously or subconsciously, right? There are always these questions. Do you do that? Do you like doing this? Do you want to do this? Oh, can you do that for me, please? And you get into that habit of testing people out, right? And you see how they react and how they are. I don't know. I've always tested people out since I was a kid. I guess I've enjoyed playing with people since then. But no, what I mean playing is that understanding how people function and what they think and how they react, and even how I react to things, right? And it's not a bad idea to test between quotation. It's just you're testing the grounds. You want to know if that works well for you, if it's based on what
You've done it with me.
Me? I've tested you?
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Please remind me. I've tested so many people in my life.
No, you've done it with me when we were talking about when we had a meeting. But then when I said Kamal, how do you see yourself at Ngozi Talk Show? We were having a meeting, but then you tested me with something. So then I didn't answer the question. I said, who do you think you are at Ngozi Talk Show? And you said, I am part of the team. I said, no, you're part of the team and your family. So if you thought less of you, and then you realize that actually I got the answers that I wanted to hear from Nomsa, and then you changed the subject. But you were testing me.
Or you see, sometimes you don't even know.
I think what you is right. Sometimes you need to know where you stand with the people that you are with, and I liked that. After that, I actually respected you, because I realized he's a bugger. He's actually testing me, and I was like, how can he do this to me? But then I liked it because you wanted to know where you stand. I don't like people that don't ask the questions.
Let me put it this way. You know, when you say testing people out, it sounds a little bit, I mean, not very nice. You're playing with their feelings or emotions, or that you want to see how they fail, or how they do at the test. It's not about testing. It's about understanding. It's about knowing your boundaries, knowing what you believe about yourself, your self-worth, and what you can do. Contra, is that person right for that relationship that you're getting into, whatever sort of relationship it is, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friendship itself, right? I believe, I'm one of those people that believes it is important for that relationship to grow, to know exactly where both people stand in it, to know how you can grow together. Because at some point, if in a relationship, one person grows more than the other and the other one stays stagnant, that breaks off. It's not sustainable. So the two people, in a sense, need to grow together, or at least catch up to each other all the time, so that they find that intellectual connection, even if it's things that they disagree about. But that growth has to be maintained. And that's the companionship that I was talking about earlier. It's that stage where you don't test each other, but you tease each other. You play around with each other. You prank each other. You make fun of each other, and still being respectful. You can sit and have a laugh. You can sit and have grown-up discussion, even though, because for me, I'm a child for some reason. I don't know. I still don't consider myself a grown-up. But you can sit and have an adult discussion. You can sit and have an adult conversation about opinions or disagreements, and still be okay about it. And that's what I think is very crucial and important in any relationship. So I wasn't testing you. I was asking you questions to see if your values aligned with mine, in order for me to say, yes, I'm going to continue with you, or no, I'm not going to continue.
Because that's what I do. That's when I realize.
Well, I think the word what we're missing is evaluate, isn't it? Like you said,
it was evaluating everything.
Yeah, rather than testing, let's go for evaluate.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We do subconsciously need to evaluate people, don't we? We do need, and we do test people. It's something we need to know how people are going to be in certain situations. We need to know how people are going to be towards us when we do certain things. Again, most of that's a very subconscious process. There are manipulative and coercive people that actually do think about this type of stuff, and they do go out to, purposefully and intentionally do these types of things. But 90%, I think, was it 80% of the things that you do are subconscious. So it's very rare that anybody's actually doing this on purpose anyway. It's just something that we've learned to do. We need to check people out. We need to know where we stand with them. If we have a healthy, secure attachment style, and we're secure within ourselves, and when people raise red flags for us, You know, when we evaluate them, they go, actually, you don't really meet what I want from somebody in my life. If we're secure enough, we'll say, we'll walk away from that. You know, like you said, if you had that business conversation and you didn't match, you're both in a secure enough space to go, actually, this isn't going to work. And you'd have walked off in a different direction. But if you're not secure enough within yourself, you'll still might overlook those things because, you know, you're buying into your old way of doing things and things that aren't really actually that good for you. And so you need to, again, to come back to that self-awareness. You need to work on yourself and understand yourself and know really what you want. And it's interesting what Kamal said about people growing apart. We get together with somebody at the beginning for whatever reasons we're in this space at this time. We get together for those reasons. Now, over time, we change as people, and those reasons will either become validated or invalidated. And it's then at that point we need to go, is this person now on this journey with me or not? And is this going to be a successful, long-lasting relationship or not? Do I need to move on? And it's okay to let that go, because you're not the same people you were at this point, especially if, again, you've got unhealthy or maladaptive needs. So you might grow up in a household perhaps where your father was the boss and bossed you around all the time. So you then might decide, no one's ever going to boss me around again, and you'll find a very submissive person to be with. But actually, a submissive person isn't really the right person for you either. But you've chosen that person because you were so adamant you were never going to be with anybody again that bossed you around. But after a while of being with this submissive person, and you're like always in control, you're always in charge, you're always making decisions, you don't want to do that all the time. There's hardly anybody that really wants to be in charge all of the time, make all of the decisions all of the time. They're the ones that are in charge all the time because they need someone else to look after them sometimes as well. But if you've chosen someone that's massively submissive that needs looking after, that's never going to happen. So over time, you're going to separate. If you then can't bring them up to equalize that relationship out, then it's time for you both to move on, because it's never, ever going to be anything that you want it to be. So it's amazing how we get together and why we get together, how we can mislead ourselves, how we can be misled by others. But actually, it's a subconscious process, and we don't realize it's going on. And that's why awareness of these types of things is so important, because if we don't become aware of ourselves and what we're doing as far as relationships are concerned, we will mislead, we will be misled, and we're generally going to end up with relationships that are never going to be happy and fulfilling.
That is so true, John. That is so true. So you have to, some people basically, they say this is what I want, but they're not that. So I always say to someone, if that's what you want, make sure you are the same as well, because when it comes to relationship, you can't say to the universe, I want this, and if you are not that thing that you desire. So it's very, very important to actually, when I was talking to Kamal, and he basically made me realize, actually, you guys look out for me, and in that way, then that's when I realized, actually, I had to split the group. Basically, when I spoke to him and the other people, it made me realize that I need to be with people that part of my family, that I'm gonna say these are my family, and these are just guest speakers, because you guys, I'm not afraid. Like John, I met you at Desmond O'Connor, and we basically developed a business and friendship relationship. I know that if there's something that I'm doing, and if you are available, I know that these guys basically, they run a gossip talk show. I know if they're not available, I know I can say, John, are you free Monday? Can you please run the talk? I know that the people that I've chosen, the people that are prepared to step up. So which is you have to basically, your vision has to align with the people that you work with the tribe that you are surrounded with or surrounded by, because if you choose the wrong tribe that don't think the same way, or relationship, somebody that does not think the way you think, like the vision, Yesterday I was writing my vision, and something came in my mind, and I was like, I was asking my daughter, and I was like, would you like to live in this place like this? And I said to my spouse, would you like to live in a place? And it was like, who wouldn't like to live in a place like that? And I was like, you have to ask. I can't assume that whatever I want, everyone wants it. So I have to ask. So they were like, oh yes, please. And I was like writing it down that is approved. So I'm gonna put it on my vision. So it's nice to actually, I don't like it being in control, it being a control freak. Everything that I do, I've basically meditated and realized that actually when you are doing something, if you decide to control whatever you're doing, it doesn't work. So live freedom. That's why I live with the Ngozi Talk Show. I live freedom so that you guys, when you see some development or ideas, you bring them in. You can't blame me and say, no, I didn't know whether you're going to accept it. So John, if you don't know, if you come across any good ideas and Ngozi Talk Show, you have to bring them. You don't have to, but you have a choice of saying, I have some ideas. Would you like to listen to them? So that is the freedom that I've given everybody. That this is the freedom provided. It goes with the Ngozi Talk Show values and culture. The values is we help people find their voice, lead from within. We're not here to entertain anyone. So that happens with the relationship as well. So we are running out of time. John, over to you. Do you have any words of encouragement you want to leave with our audience, please?
Yeah, thanks. Now let me know if you need me to take over a show.
Okay. There's always, I'm always out filming with my children, so don't worry, your time will come.
Yeah, okay. So what could I say? Well, everything I've said so far, let me try and put that into a little nutshell. Being misled by love can mean several things, many different things. It comes from something as simple as your hormones telling you that you want to attach to somebody, to something much more deeply rooted as far as what you think you want from a relationship, but actually comes from a space which isn't good for you anymore. You could meet someone who is putting their best foot forward and is only showing you parts of themselves that they want to show you. People that will keep things from you. Again, it's for you to decide what's the best thing for you moving forward, and to really be aware of and understand what it is about you that might lead to certain things happening in relationships which might lead you to being misled in the first place. And having that awareness, having that ability to be able to see what's in front of you, to know how you feel, to know what you're thinking, to know what's going on around you will really bode well if you are in any type of relationship at the moment that you feel there might be issues with, that you want to address, or if you're single and you're looking to meet somebody that is going to fulfill the criteria, the wants that you have in a relationship, then to have that self-awareness, to understand what it is you really want, what you really need from somebody moving forwards is the best thing for you to do. So become responsible for your choices and don't allow yourself to mislead yourself, and know that you can do whatever you want as you move forward. And if you do feel like you're being misled by someone else, it's okay for you to walk away, no matter how hard that might seem for you to be in that time.
Thank you so much. Kamal, words of encouragement?
Word of encouragement. In my opinion, it is better to be hated by the people for who you are than be loved for somebody that you are not. And if you are truly yourself, if you are honest with who you are, you shouldn't be scared of any relationship. And if it misleads you, like John says, let it go. If you feel misled, let it go. If you feel that it doesn't align with who you are, your values, and what you believe about yourself and how your life should be, let it go. There's no point hanging on to it. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kamal. So I think next time, John and Kamal, we need to talk about manifesting, love manifesting. I don't think we have covered that. So I've had so many people on the page asking about manifesting. Every time I post things on the page every morning, so people are struggling with manifesting that love. So next time when you come on, can we talk about that? Remind me.
Okay.
So we can cover that. There's a girl, she's in the process. I thought before we've covered the manifesting, I'm not sure, I asked her to look at the videos through, but I think next time when you're on, let me know when you're on time so we can put that down and do the manifesting, love manifesting. So thank you so much. Those who are watching Ghosty Talk Show and who's going to be watching in a year's time, thank you so much. And we appreciate you. We are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time in Ghosty Talk Shows. And live with grace, everyone, and God bless you. And don't forget to get in touch with the coaches, please. Thank you so much, everyone.